One Piece is certainly one of, if not the single most significant anime of our generation. By now, the story has been told over the course of a quarter of a century, and it's looking like its run is set to continue for a while longer. Fans of the series have come to love it for its unique characters, wondrous world building, and oh so much more. Yet will that be true for future generations? Our modern era has produced what can arguably be called timeless classics. That being stories such as fantasy's Lord of the Rings and science fiction's Dune. These cultural pillars have shaped their respective genres and may well stand the test of time, as ancient legends like the Iliad, the Odyssey, the Epic of Gilgamesh, and so many more have. By comparing One Piece to other cultural phenomena and relics of the past, we can start to wonder whether or not it will impact culture in the distant future. Odysseus was an ancient mythological hero who fought in the legendary Trojan War. His tale, as told in the Odyssey, is loosely a sequel to Homer's Iliad. As Odysseus and his crew travels the Mediterranean Sea, they encounter timeless foes in the forms of sirens, the witch Circe, and many more who do their best to prevent our hero from returning home. Loss, struggle, glorious feats, adventure, this tale is the very essence of legendary. But the legendary nature of it all isn't why it's remembered to this day. Many similarly epic tales have been told of larger-than-life struggles with fantastic characters and places, but not every one of them will stand the test of time, so why did this one? I believe it largely boils down to the universality of the Odyssey story. No matter who you are or where you were born, a seafaring tale of perseverance and heroism is inspiring. The lessons and themes contained within resonate beyond cultural boundaries and time itself, to leave lasting impacts upon folks far removed from the original Greek audience. Now let's cross-reference this with One Piece. One Piece started out as a manga written by Eriko Oda for a Japanese audience, falling under the category of a shonen. The story follows Monkey D. Luffy as he journeys to become the Pirate King, seeking Gold D. Roger's legendary One Piece. Within the story of One Piece, we find similarly timeless lessons and themes of freedom, dreams, perseverance, and camaraderie. Additionally, the mythical villains of Kaido, a mighty dragon, and Doflamingo, a fallen god, along with fantastical places such as the Samurai Kingdom of Wano and the underwater mermaid kingdom of Fishman Island, elevate the story to the highest levels of fiction. These people and places soar far above our concepts of reality and stretch our imaginations to their furthest degrees. Zooming into Luffy himself, and we'll find ourselves with a hero. He, like Odysseus, is the center point of the story, going on wild adventures and facing harrowing challenges in order to achieve his goal of the One Piece. In many ways, One Piece is a tale which embodies the legendary elements of ancient myths, like the Odyssey, so I feel confident in saying that it has the potential to become enshrined in history. While the Odyssey has stood for around 2.5 millennia, I would categorize more recent tales such as The Lord of the Rings and Dune as being among our most likely works to follow in its path. These both are foundational to the respective genres of fantasy and sci-fi, with Lord of the Rings in particular being notably impactful in most every fantasy tale told up until the modern day. These two were critical in forming some of fiction's most popular genres, which is why I believe they will stand the test of time as representatives of our modern era of storytelling. However, while these are classics of fiction, is One Piece a classic of the world of anime? For certain, the father of Shonen, Dragon Ball, is an anime classic. However, by this point, I think it's fair to say that One Piece is at the bare minimum on track to surpass it if it hasn't already. This puts One Piece in a position of unrivaled prominence at the forefront of its genre, and its worldwide appeal is why I believe it, in particular, has the best chance of standing the test of time, even more so than its predecessors. But how does it compare with Western classics such as Lord of the Rings and Dune? Well, in terms of popularity, I think One Piece has definitely come to rival both of these works. But it has some other factors of distinction, which may or may not prevent it from lasting into the future along with these other works. For starters, One Piece is told through the medium of animation and imagery. Unlike the Odyssey, Lord of the Rings, and Dune, One Piece relies heavily upon the wacky visuals Oda has drawn throughout the years, and this may become a problem for the purposes of longevity. To tell the entirety of the tale of One Piece up until the modern day, you need to preserve over 1,000 drawn chapters of narrative information. Needless to say, this is a tall order. Over the course of thousands of years, it is not easy, but it's definitely possible, to transcribe books from one generation to the next. Images, though, are another story. Works of art individually take a lot to maintain, but when you consider the dozens of panels that go into a chapter, and the thousands plus chapters that go into One Piece, then you're left with an insanely long work of art, which has to be preserved to keep the story intact. The current popularity of One Piece certainly helps, as it has millions of printed volumes and a large online catalog which will persist for a while. But what happens if the internet has problems in the future? Will we always have access to the internet in its current form for the next 1,000 years? Could war or technological development render it unusable or irrelevant? I think it's very plausible that the online presence of One Piece could vanish over such a large time frame, which would leave the physical copies of its anime and manga as the primary relics of its existence. Yet, as fans of the manga would know, the manga volumes of One Piece just physically take up a lot of space. It's easy to dedicate a shelf or multiple of them just to the One Piece manga. And when you compare this to the far more compact books or book of Lord of the Rings or the Odyssey, then suddenly the feasibility of keeping the story intact becomes a lot more questionable. Simply put, the fact that One Piece is an extensive story, told through a visual medium, makes it much easier to lose parts of it or all of it to the passage of time, as you simply cannot hold the entirety of it within the pages of a novel. However, we have to consider the fact that One Piece isn't done. This must be the biggest caveat in this whole ordeal. If One Piece ends up with the grandest spectacle the world has ever seen, shouldn't that impact its longevity? Well, I personally would argue that it won't make much of a difference. Even if One Piece reaches new heights, riding the wave of the greatest ending of all time, that does not solve the inherent problems that come with the medium with which it has been created. A fantastic ending can't make it more physically compact. However, I'll admit it definitely increases the possibility of future efforts to preserve the series. While this was a fun thought experiment, I'm not going to pretend like I'm some expert in the field of artistic preservations. My thoughts and speculations on the matter ultimately just do not hold a lot of weight, but it's still a fun thought experiment to think about how the works of art that we love in our current day could hold up in the future, and whether or not One Piece will last for generations. Even though it may disappear in 1,000 years, I think we can all agree that it's quite the gift we've been given to be able to appreciate and experience the story for what it is today.